we get a lot of emails and correspondence from people who want to write books or feel like maybe God is calling them to be a writer and not certain that they truly understand how much that takes to write a book. And can you explain the process that you go through, say for your nonfiction books? What is the process that you go through? Do you have an outline? How do you start even? And how long does it take you to write a book?
Well, first, I often tell people when they tell me I really want to write a book, I say, well, probably what you want is to have written a book, meaning
Right.
you want to actually have this published thing with your name on it, the sense of satisfaction that goes with it. Isn't it beautiful, and it smells good, and it looks good, and everybody will see my name. But in actual fact, the process of being a writer is very tough. Jerry Jenkins, who's a friend, has said that writing a book is like giving birth to barbed wire. Now, of course, men are not experts on giving birth, so but the point, the graphic part of that is this is not an easy thing to do. And I had a conversation with somebody one time. Actually, he's a medical doctor who had said, "Well, I'm looking forward to retiring because then I'm going to write some books." And we got a little further in the process, and I was telling him, now, do you have a background in writing? Have you had some experience? Are you writing anything now? Well, no. And so I said something to the effect of, well, what would you say if I told you that, I'm a writer, and I'm going to retire as being a writer someday, and then I'm going to become a doctor? And he looked at me like, well, wouldn't you probably ask me something about what I'm doing in terms of acquiring some medical knowledge and skill? I think sometimes people assume you can just become a writer. Anybody can write because we all do write to a certain degree. Well, anyone can write, but there are skills and disciplines and techniques that you must develop over time. And in terms of how that actually works, when I'm looking at a book, I do an intensive amount of research. I actually, as I think you know, I over-research. I read too much. But, that's just something I love to do. I love research, and I love to immerse myself in it. So when I'm writing my book, Heaven, I read every single book on heaven that I could find, that existed, that I could get my hands on. That's over 150 books. Some of them, they go back to Puritan Richard Baxter's book, The Saints' Everlasting Rest, a little book on heaven by W. Graham Scroggie that I saw in a footnote. And I love Scroggie, and I never knew that he wrote a book in heaven, and it's some obscure book, and he's in a footnote, and literally could not find it in Amazon used books anywhere in the world. Finally found it in a little bookstore. I assume it was a little bookstore, but a bookstore in Scotland. There was one copy in the world for sale of this book, and I got a hold of it, and it cost only £2 for the book, and then like £10 for the shipping, for this little book on heaven. But I love to research, and I always tell myself the next book may contain something that will inspire me or change my mind about something or maybe enlighten me on a certain passage. So to me, research is a huge part of the process. You write books in different ways. With nonfiction, you've usually got a very orderly process. I think God has blessed me with a fairly orderly, structured mind where I can kind of put things in their categories. But then I have to go through all the research I've done and to basically weed out the great majority of it I can't use. But that doesn't mean it was wasted. It's because it has deepened my reservoir from which to draw. Now, C.S. Lewis said, and others have said this as well, that there's no such thing as an original thought. When people say, well, I think your books are really original, I say, well, yeah, the originality comes from having soaked in what so many other people have said that I work through it and assimilate it and process it so that what comes out is something different than anyone has ever said, or at least in a different style. But you can't get the originality by just sitting in a room by yourself and not reading and listening to what other people have done.